everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Season 2 of Andor. So if you haven't watched those episodes, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney+, check out all 3 of those episodes, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Season 2 of Andor, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Hello.
Hello. I thought you were going to do what's their goodbye thing? It's the hand to the chest.
Oh, it was like a bow or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the gesture was. As soon as you brought it up, I remember what you were talking about. But dang it,
I can see it in my head, but trying to recreate it, I can't. Anyway,
I didn't want to get too close to something else that was very problematic as well too. So.
Anyway, moving on to things that I do not actually want to see in real life. Fucking giant spiders, man. Like,
Gorman spiders.
Look, I don't care if you know the person. I don't care if it's a parent. I don't care if it's a brother or a sister. I don't care if it's your wife. If you hand me something that looks like a giant spider, I'm not taking it. Like, period. Exclamation point. Like, fuck that. Because
they look Wild Wild West.
Yeah, they look too real. And I don't know what people are storing inside of them. I don't know if it's like poison candy or what the hell's going on with it. I just don't want to see one come back to life. It's just it's all I could be thinking about. I've been thinking about since watching these 3 episodes because it was in multiple of the episodes, and it just makes my skin crawl when I see giant spiders. It was giving me flashbacks of, I don't know if you've ever seen like the social media videos of people in Australia that are showing the giant, like, I think they're the huntsman spiders. They're not like super dangerous. Like they're not
bigger than your hand. Yeah. Wolf spiders or something like that. Yeah.
No, I think are they the huntsman? Because wolf spiders.
Wolf spiders are huge too, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we have those in the U.S. We have the wolf spiders. Okay. But I think I could be absolutely wrong. And let me know in the comments below. I think they're called huntsmen, and they're so massive that like there's people putting like plastic bowls over them, and they're like plastic bowls that
they look like the Halloween decorations that you put on like your door.
When I was a little kid growing up, I actually did a bunch of reports on Australia, and because I really wanted to go to Australia for like many reasons. I liked the Great Barrier Reef. I liked everything about Australia, and the older I get, the less and less I want to go to Australia of all the things that I see in Australia. That is like a normal thing for them. Like that's a normal thing. They don't freak out. They're like,
I want to get used to stuff like that.
Yeah. That's bigger than it's bigger than my hand. Like I can't even. Oh, okay. Let's think about something else. Everybody's a spy. Let's change the subject. That I feel like sums up the entire chunk. Not even one episode. The entire chunk. I feel like everybody in this is a spy now. Cyril's a spy. Cassian's always a spy. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like we got everybody. Their take. Dedra's like basically, keeping stuff from Cyril. Like everybody's a spy in this, and I mean that in the best way possible because it just is like so many layers on top of things, and it's so interesting to me how everybody is just because I was reacting in real time, and I wish I could show like my notes tab on my phone because that's what I do when I watch. I kind of just jot things down here and there, and the first thing I said was, "Oh no, is Rico's favorite couple broken up?" And then, like, as I go on, I go, "Oh no, Cyril's being a spy and doing this for Dedra," and then you find out even later that she's keeping stuff from him. Oh man, it's so much. Anyway, Rico, other than spiders and spies, what are some of your instant reactions to this chunk of episodes?
Yeah, spiders. I said. So you just combined the words. No. Okay.
Nope.
So yeah, this was a really great chunk of episodes. I thought. Once again, just like some insanely great character work. Whether the thing I want to talk about the most, which is basically Biggs kind of like one kind of diving into her having like a little bit of a drug habit, but then also like the fact that she kind of needs that to kind of just kind of get through her nightmare phase that she's kind of going through right now. But then ultimately that kind of coming full circle and her kind of overcoming that and getting that ultimate revenge on Dr. Gorse from season one when she puts him in that chair. And even recites some of the cold lines that he said to her back then too. It's like it'll only feel like forever too, which I thought was like just a great kind of a cool line too. Just the way, and this happened at the very end of the chunk of these 3 episodes too. So the fact that so much happened before that, but it really capped off with this one moment that really stuck with me. Was really cool. But you got moments like that, and then you got some really great like kind of dialogue scenes, which like Cassian confronting Luthen in front of his shop, which I thought was a great scene too, because he risked so much because of something that Luthen did behind his back. I thought that was a great. Those two always have really great like one-on-one scenes together, but I thought that was one of the better ones between the two because there was one particular moment where Cassian says like I gave everything to you. And if you remember, there's a particular monologue that Luthen gave to Lonnie last season, where at the end he said, "So what do I give?" And he goes, "Everything." So when he says that word to Luthen, Luthen goes, "Oh, everything? You give everything?" And so I thought that was a really funny callback, kind of like to that one particular monologue where he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I've given everything. Like you guys don't even know what everything is." So yeah, I love that we get like moments like that where we get like some of these tense thriller moments when it comes to like how these characters interact with each other, or you just get these straight up just like confrontational arguments, but they're just like really well written dialogue like that between Cassian and Luthen too. But yeah, seeing that stuff, seeing Bix get her revenge, just the actress who plays Bix, I wish I knew her name off the top of my head, but just throughout the whole season so far, she's been incredible because she's had some of the more, I'd say, darker storyline stuff as far as like acting goes. And I think she's just handled it so well. And it makes me excited to see her in other stuff in the future too. So I really wish I could remember her name right now, but yeah, just all credit to Bix, the character. It's just been phenomenal. One of my favorite characters, I think, of the season so far. And I love that we get some more stuff with Woman too. So that's also cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we said this, when we were talking about kind of the 3-episode premiere chunk, is these basically flow so well together. It's hard to kind of distinctly remember what events happen here, what events happen there, type of thing. You kind of look at it as a movie. These are all these chunks are basically movies, kind of, in it of themselves, because they kind of have a lot of through line, and all of these points are happening kind of at the same time frame. So it's really interesting on how they can craft all of these storylines at the same time, and how they can get these characters having all of these individual storylines also at the exact same time, type of thing. And we're weaving in and out of every single one of these storylines throughout all 3 episodes in a continuous time frame, and just everything. It's just so much to kind of, it's almost like I like recapping these in chunks, but I'm looking forward to rewatching the entirety of season 2, like completely, like all the way through, just being able to like rewatch all of them and kind of just, intake kind of everything, and not just have, time in between each one of them, type of thing.
Yeah.
So, you want to get to some big takeaways?
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to kick off big takeaways, and it's kind of along the same lines of what we were both talking about, in our, immediate reactions and stuff like that. Is I really like how they're amping up the tension. And I was actually explaining, without, giving any spoilers or anything like that, to somebody else who hasn't started watching season 2 yet. And I was explaining this, and they've already, they love Rogue One, and they loved season 1 of Andor and stuff like that. And I said, what they're really doing a good job of is, we know the level of tension that they have to get to for Rogue One. And I feel like they're doing a very good job of each chunk adding more and more to that tension level, until we get to the end of this and it's the events of Rogue One and it's all tension all the time, type of thing. I think they're doing a really good job of amping that up and getting us kind of in that mindset little by little, but also getting these characters thrown into that instantly. And what I kind of put as my takeaway is I really enjoyed this chunk of episodes, more specifically the episode 6, where, because I mean, that's where multiple things are happening and they're very tense situations. Every single one of them in their own right is a tense situation. It basically felt like the first Mission Impossible movie, where we had different teams of agents out at the same time.
Mhm.
And the first watch of that, I mean, that came out when both of us were really young. But the first time watching that, it was a little confusing. Not in a bad way, but it was just like, oh shit.
A lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces, and you don't catch it. And then the second time around, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. But what we get a little bit more insight in this. So like I said, Dedra's kind of in a way, playing Cyril, who thinks he's just a spy, helping her and stuff like that. But there are things that they're keeping from him. And in turn, like every single group, I feel like there are things that they're keeping from each other and all of this stuff. So like, you really don't know who knows everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like we do, I think, like the audience, I feel like we have the clearest vision of every single group and every single person who knows the most about what's going on in every situation. But the characters themselves don't. And that's like, that adds a completely other level of tension, I feel like, and confusion, because you really don't know 100% like what's going to happen. Like, we don't know if Cyril's going to get double crossed by the Imperial side type of thing, because it kind of seems like they are kind of slowly setting him up to either get, hit in the crossfire or, get blamed for, letting the rebels on Gorman kind of, take out some of the weapons and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's just, it's just so interesting to kind of see everything kind of build into this and into every situation, and to kind of, just see it play out and then not really know exactly how it's going to affect these main characters. It's it's definitely not going to go the way that Cyril thinks it's going to go in that situation in particular. So I'm here for all of it. I was glued to the TV for episode 6, but all 3 of these episodes, this entire chunk, I thought was great. And I really, really enjoyed it. And that's not to say that I didn't enjoy, episodes 1 through 3. It's just, I just feel like this took everything to a completely other level.
Right.
And now, like,
the more the story progresses, the more it ramps up, and they do a good job of kind of giving you a little bit more each chunk, I feel like.
Right.
Yeah.
That and yeah, I mean, even within the groups and the teams and stuff like that, we're getting tension and kind of arguments and like you were saying with Cassian and Luthen type of thing. Like we had the argument on when they were flying back on the ship for a completely different reason, and then we had the argument when he finds out about Biggs.
Go visiting Biggs behind his back.
Yeah. So there's just so much, and I mean that in the best way possible. So I'm in, and I'm very excited to see the next chunk and just see where everything kind of is panning out even further. And yeah. But Rico, what were some of your takeaways from this chunk of episodes?
Yeah, it reminds me kind of like the formula of season 1, right? Like the first 3 episodes are really kind of following, kind of introducing Cassian kind of home, like all of his friends and stuff that were on Ferrix, and also kind of doing the introduction between him and Luthen, right? And then it ends with him kind of like leaving with Luthen, or just kind of joining his team. I think he lives with them. But then, of course, the next arc is the whole Aldhani heist stuff. And the first 2 episodes is like the prep for the heist. And then the episode 6, the 3rd episode, that chunk was the big heist episode too. So this kind of gave us that same format where you had like all these characters who were kind of interlocking between all these different storylines. And they're all kind of meeting together in one place too, and we're kind of watching all of them kind of do their part in their part of the rebellion or the empire, so to speak, depending on which side they're on. But then they're sort of like overlapping each other to the point of like getting in each other's way, but they're all just playing their own parts, but they're just in the same spot the entire time, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, there's a few scenes I wanted to touch on that I thought were pretty cool. One of the ones I didn't write here in my notes, but I thought that was really fun to watch, was just watching Cassian kind of posing as is it the fashion designer?
Yeah.
On Gorman too, and I just thought,
I forget his name. What the hell is his name?
Yeah, as soon as I said, I wish I could remember his name. I want to say it's like Carrie and something, but it was something along those lines. But But one of the things I like too is when he's on his way there, he's learning like his whole backstory and stuff like that, and just the fact that he has to get all these little details down just in case he gets questioned on the tiniest little bit of information on his whole fake backstory. I just think is one of the coolest aspects of the show. It's that whole like spy thing when it comes to the nature of the show too, and the thriller aspect. Like, just how good can you fake being this whole different person? It's no different really than what Lutheran was doing before too. The way he kind of changes into a different person, has this whole new alias stuff. Like, where we see that a lot of times with Cassian throughout the show. We've seen him play multiple people with different names throughout the course of the show. So I think that's just another fun role that he gets to play too, where he just get. And then I just like him coming back towards to Bix and just kind of telling him like, yeah, dude, I was a fashion designer. That was kind of what I did over there. Like, there's like, oh yeah, how was your day at work? Essentially, like that kind of a scene, which I thought was great. But so yeah, that was one of the ones because a lot of the scenes that I really did like were from episode 6 overall, but one from episode 5, I believe I did like was the very end of episode 5 of it, I think, was Saw Gerrera's big monologue to Wilman on the whole on the flight deck, basically. And one, it's one of those monologues that goes up there with like Luthen's monologue or Nemec's manifesto from season 1. But now we get to see Forrest Whitaker get to have like his really great Saw Gerrera monologue moment, I feel like too, which I thought was really great. Him just kind of like psyching up Wilman to kind of being a part of this life. And of course also kind of foreshadowing his use of the Rhydonium, breathing it in Rogue One too, because I remember seeing him at that. He's kind of this guy with his breathing tube, and you're like, why does he do this? Like, does he need this for like injury reasons because he's old or whatever? Kind of like a Darth Vader, kind of like mirroring kind of character or some form. But you kind of learn in this episode he uses it because he loves the feeling that like that rush that it gives him, like basically because he kind of mentions to it once to Wellman in episode 4. He's like, you ever smelled he's inhaled too much Rhydonium before? And then he goes like, he kind of starts to describe the effects. And then in this episode, he basically has Wilman take a big huff of it, and then you see the effects on Wilman itself. It was a pretty crazy scene to end the episode on, but that was just a really cool moment with Saw Gerrera in general. Just one of the better live action Forrest Whitaker moments we got with the character. Another scene I really liked was the scene during the whole Skolden's party. I think it was the game that the guy that they're Mon Mothma's daughter's son. That whole thing. But they're doing the whole like kind of exhibit around all the different art pieces, and you got Krennic there, which I thought was pretty cool, seeing Mon Mothma and Krennic in the same room, and they start having a little bit of debate on politics and stuff like that, like in a very civil manner, which I thought was a very cool way to do it as well. Like, if they're in a place like this, they have to be kind of dignified to a degree, even though they hate each other's guts, I'm sure.
Right.
I even love Mon Mothma just kind of throwing that jab, like, oh, it's nice seeing you here, and not like on the a testimonial stand or something like that. Or a witness stand. Yeah. So that was just a funny little dig at him. He's just like, okay. And and so that was really cool. But while that's all happening, Kalea is on this whole mission on her own to kind of remove like this bug that they put in one of the artifacts that they given them. And let me tell you, like, Kalea is one of my favorite characters on the show because one, she's like, at first you kind of think she's just kind of like the side assistant character to Luthen, but it seems like she has almost just as much power as he does, because she's basically his eyes and ears. So she relays a lot of the information to him, but that gives her a lot of power in that aspect because she knows what she can tell Luthen and what not to tell Luthen at the same time too. But just the way that she talks to Luthen too is like unlike any other way other persons would talk to Luthen. Maybe Cassian too, because he's not really afraid of Luthen either. But I just like the way that she kind of plays this like straight face, kind of like very intense when it comes to like doing her mission, but she's very good at putting on the fake smile face and just kind of like when she's hanging out with Lonnie, she has like she's instructing Lonnie to do exactly what she says. And then she'll just put on the fake smile and then start talking about the art. And you're just like, dang, dude, what a freaking like masterful performance that she's putting on. And just the whole, like you said, the tension building just when it comes to her not being able to get the bug out, was just like, oh, here we go. Like, this is like our big moment during this whole part. Like, is she going to get it out in time? Right. She's twisting to the point where she's bleeding, which is like pretty crazy too. And then, of course, you get that moment where you don't really see her do it, but then you just cut to her and Luthen walking out like, you're welcome, I did it for you. Like, she was no big deal kind of a thing. Right. So yeah, I just love their dynamic, and yeah, the more I see of Kalea, the more I just enjoy her as a character. So I hope we get more of her as the season goes on. And then the last one to me was a pretty intense scene here was, obviously Cinta's death during the whole ordeal. And obviously it goes back to like earlier, I think in the episode, or I don't know if it was the episode before, where they were talking about not bringing guns
Mhm.
to this whole thing. And of course, this kid was the one who kept pushing on that, and he decides to bring a blaster. And then of course, after the whole thing goes down, he's sitting there kind of regretting what happened, and Vel pretty intensely like tells him to like, no, you know, you're gonna make up for this for the rest of your life and stuff. Like she pretty much lays into him in a moment where he's like kind of like processing everything that's happening, and just like, damn. But at the same time, you're like, okay, I get it. Like, this is war, and she has to be like that
Yeah.
person there, and she's the one that just lost the one that she loves. So it's just like, okay, that was like an incredible, like incredible acting scene from the actors in this show. Again, I wish I knew the actor's name who played Vel, but she's been great ever since she showed up again in the Aldani kind of heist arc from all the way in season 1. So she's been a pretty big character ever since she showed up. So yeah, that was just a really a crazy scene. Like that was a pretty powerful scene to watch. But you're just like, yeah, that's the way that character probably would have to handle this, given her position and what she does. She seems like she does a good amount for Luthen too. So she's just got to keep her head in the game and just get the mission done. So yeah, that was a great representation of what these characters have to go through in the show, and how we just have to like go. We can't really sit there and dwell on it too much. We just got to keep going for the mission, right? Just like when we lost Brasso at the end of the first 3 episodes. So it's just yeah, pretty good reminder that sometimes when more of these things happen, you just got to keep pushing forward.
That, and I mean, knowing what's going to what we're leading to with Rogue One, we know, you know, all of these people are eventually sacrificing
Oh yeah,
themselves or the ones they love, type of thing,
Yeah.
for the rebellion and stuff like that. So we got a lot more of that ahead of us. So.
Yeah. As Guerrero said in season 1, just for the greater good.
Yep.
And that's all it's for.
Yep. But you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay, so you kind of touched on it a little bit when you're talking about Cyril, and kind of like the whole dynamic between her and Dedra, and then of course this whole you know, this kind of like doing this undercover mission, but also there's being stuff that's being kept from him as well. I definitely think that's going to cause some kind of a rift in this kind of a relationship for sure. I have a feeling that a lot of people in this storyline aren't going to make it through to the end, because this is the final season, of course, leading into Rogue One. But you know, some people have to be taken out in order for some people to be put into positions they are. Like I even imagine like someone like Luthen is probably not destined for much of this, like much longer in this series too. Especially, you know, going back to that monologue where like, is he even going to be able to see this kind of like dream of this rebellion actually going through? Like, no, but he's gonna at least make sure that he's, you know, putting in the steps to make sure that it at least kickstarts the rebellion, right? So yeah, I think that's kind of like the biggest thing I'm interested in seeing, is watching, you know, people turn on each other. They don't expect, you know, the characters themselves always don't expect to be turned on, but like in a sense, the audience is not expecting some character to turn on each other too. So I think there's going to be a lot of double crossing going on at the most like random times. I feel like for you know, it's going to be fun, shocking storytelling though too. But yeah, I'm excited for it, because also as we record this too, the next chunk of episodes are out too. So it's just like, now I'm excited just like to get off here and just start watching those now, and just like pick up like what's going on too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super excited for that. And I think we only have like one more block of episodes after this. So, or you know, so we have 7, 8, and 9, and I think 10, 11, 12, and then I think we're done. So yeah, there's only so much we can, you know, really fit into those 2, you know, kind of like movie chunks of episodes. So yeah, that's why I'm really just along for the ride, and just to me, this is the best Star Wars TV show that they've ever done. Like you know, like Mando has a lot of that classic Star Wars fun, like Star Wars fun vibes that we get. We get a lot of like cool aliens and ships, and we get some lightsaber fights. We get all like, you know, the melting pot of Star Wars in there. But this is like good, like high quality television, right? I feel like if you took out Star Wars here, it'll be like, I think you even said this last time we were talking about this. If you took out Star Wars from the show, it's still a compelling TV show without
it would be
it's a great war TV show.
It would be a suspense
exactly, a spy thriller show with war aspects, like something like The Americans, something like that. It'd be something like that. So yeah, I just love that we're getting stuff like this set in a Star Wars world. And I think it just shows the potential for storytelling in this world when you know, I'm all about, like, you know, just cool aesthetics too. Like you can give me any type of TV show and just put some cool Star Wars aesthetics on it. I'm like, that's what I want to see. So I think this show is a great example of like, you can have high quality writing, high quality characters and stuff, but just set it in this cool sci-fi fantasy world that and it still plays.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And yeah, I mean, I love this show and I love Mando, and I love them both for absolutely different reasons.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, what's also really interesting about it is the time periods that they both take place, and Mando is after the Rebellion won. So, but it's the fallout of that. So we're kind of seeing someone who was kind of arguably morally gray at the end of the Empire type of thing, and now we're seeing the beginnings of the actual serious steps of the rebellion, and these people are doing what has to be done regardless of what they have to give up for it, basically.
Right exactly.
So it's very interesting to have these two ends of that of kind of the time, almost the time spectrum on this is very interesting too, because I mean, it is a very tense time, and going into A New Hope is a very tense time too. Like you know what I mean? Like the rebellion has not been won, even though that it's kind of a little bit more organized by the time we get to the original trilogy and stuff like that. But it's still not there yet.
We get to see it be a little bit of a shit show before it kind of gets a little bit more organized. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. As far as predictions, I'm almost on the same wavelength as you, but also I do want to add again, I am on K2SO watch because he's got to show up soon.
Yeah,
and I'm really hoping
I'll be on Galen watch too.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that we get him in the next chunk of episodes, and it's not all in like the finale chunk of episodes. I just like you were saying, I believe next week when you were kind of expanding on that thought that I had, I do want to kind of spend at least a couple minutes on their meeting and their introduction and why how and why they are so bonded by the time we get to Rogue One, the events of Rogue One. And I think if they try to do all of that, I'm sure they can pull it off if they do it in the final chunk of episodes, but I would just like to see it earlier and kind of just let it kind of slowly, naturally progress. And even be able to have another time jump so we can assume that more stuff happened before the finale chunk type of thing that bonded these two even more to lead right up into, as we know them as like a dynamic duo in Rogue One type of thing. So I'm really crossing my fingers that we get him in the next chunk of episodes. Now I won't be upset if we don't, because we know we're getting him, before the end of the series, or I think it's a safe assumption we're getting him before the end of the series.
Yeah.
He's credited in the cast, I believe. Alan Tudyk I believe Alan Tudyk is credited in the cast. So we're getting him at some point. But I would rather him sooner than later. But yeah, the other thing I'm really interested to see if we will get is if we will see a Cassian and Cyril. Because the whole time
it's inevitable, yeah.
The whole time we were hearing that Cassian was gonna go to Gorman, I was like, oh shit, how funny would it be if he's walking down the street and all of a sudden Cyril, but of course, they wrote a reason to have Cyril leave for the weekend, that Cassian was going to be there and stuff. So it's just like a happenstance that they're not there at the same time. But
I mean, Dedra's been looking for him for a while too. So I think there's at some point, I think we have to see a lot of these characters that we like. We know they've been on each other's radar, but we haven't seen them really on screen together. If we haven't seen them on there too long. I imagine that Ferrex episode from the end of season 1, when when all that shit went down after Maarva's death and everything. That might be the one moment where they might have crossed paths at one point for like a brief amount of time. But I want to see like a good acting, one-on-one dialogue scene or something like that. Just something more fleshed out between those characters for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot wait to watch the next chunk of episodes and just get the full take on this entire season in general, because it has been great so far. And I just cannot wait for more. But as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below, what did you think of this chunk of episodes 4, 5, and 6? And let us know in the comments below, which was your favorite episode of this chunk? There are no wrong answers. You can like every episode for something completely different. I obviously, said, I believe Rico did also, episode 6 kind of had, the most tension and the most stuff happening. So we kind of gravitated more towards enjoying that episode. But there were things to like in every one of these episodes. So let us know in the comments below, what was your favorite episode and what are you most looking forward to before the season is over, and kind of what do you want to see happen or at least shown on screen before we get to the end of the season and the start of the event of Rogue One. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notification to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Popping Off presents That Recap Show.